जय जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्यभामा कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्यभामा जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 Jai Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivrajakacharyashtottar Sata Sri Srimad Its Divine Grace
एसी भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय विष्णुपाद परमंस परिव्राजकतरेष्ठोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद इस डिवाइन ग्रेस श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्री श्री कृष्ण रुक्मिणी सत्यभामा की जय। श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की जय। श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 24, the renunciation of Kardama Muni, text number 43. Manaha Brahmani Yunjano Mano Brahmani Yunjano Mano Brahmani Yunjano Yat Tat Sad Asataha Param Yat Tat Sadasataha Param Yat Tat Sadasataha Param Guna Avabhase Viguna Gunavabhase Viguna Gunavabhase Viguna Ekabhaktya Anubhavite Ekabhaktya Anubhavite Ekabhaktya Anubhavite Mano Brahmani Yunjano Yatta Sadasata Param Gunavabhase Viguna Ekabhaktya Anubhavite Mano Brahmani Yunjano Yat Sadasataha Param Gunavabhase Viguna Ekabhaktya Anubhavite. Manaha, mind, Brahmani, on the Supreme, Yunjanaha, fixing, Yat, which, Tat, that, Sat Asataha, cause and effect, Param, beyond, Guna Avabhase, who manifests the three modes of material nature, Vigune, who is beyond the material modes, Ekabhaktya, by exclusive devotion, Anubhavite, who is perceived, Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. He fixed his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Parabrahman, who is beyond cause and effect, who manifests the three modes of material nature, who is beyond those three modes, and who is perceived only through unfailing devotional service. Kindly repeat. He fixed his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Parabrahman, who is beyond cause and effect, who manifests the three modes of material nature, who is beyond those three modes, and who is perceived only through unfailing devotional service. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Whenever there is bhakti, there must be three things present: the devotee, the devotion, and the Lord. Without these three, bhakta, bhakti, and Bhagavan, there is no meaning to the word bhakti. Kardama Muni fixed his mind on the Supreme Brahman and realized him through bhakti or devotional service. This indicates that he fixed his mind on the personal feature of the Lord, because bhakti cannot be executed unless one has realization of the personal feature of the absolute truth. Gunava Bhasi, he is beyond the three modes of material nature, but it is due to him that the three modes of material nature are manifested. In other words, although the material energy is an emanation of the Supreme Lord, he is not affected as we are by the modes of material nature. We are conditioned souls, but he is not affected, although the material nature has emanated from him. He is the supreme living entity and is never affected by Maya, but we are subordinate, minute living entities, prone to be affected by the limitations of Maya. If he is in constant contact with the Supreme Lord by devotional service, the conditioned living entity also becomes freed from the infection of Maya. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Sagunan Samatyityaitan. A person engaged in Krishna consciousness is at once liberated from the influence of the three modes of material nature. In other words, once the conditioned soul engages himself in devotional service, he also becomes liberated like the Lord. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namavo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mokam karoti vachalam pangam langhayate girim yat kripatamaham mande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. During the Battle of Kurukshetra, which happened almost 5,000 years ago, around 3107 BC. That's approximately when the 3102 or 7, something like that. That's when the Kurukshetra war happened in Kurukshetra, which is near Delhi. After the Kurukshetra war got concluded, Yudhishthira Maharaj was enthroned as the emperor. And on the request of Yudhishthira Maharaj, Krishna stayed back in Hastinapura for a few days. After spending some time in Hastinapura, Krishna decided to return to Dwaraka. So when Krishna returned to Dwaraka, the Dwaraka Vasis, the residents of Dwaraka, they were all feeling great separation from Krishna. For so many days, months together, Krishna had been away. They were used to constantly, every day, gazing upon the lotus face of Krishna. And now so many months he is not there, they were feeling great sadness. When they got the news that, oh, Krishna has returned to Dwaraka, he has come at the entrance to the city, all the Dwaraka Vasis became very joyous. Oh, Krishna has come back. So immediately, all the personalities like Vasudeva, Balaram, Ugrasena, all these Yadavas, the moment they heard that Krishna has come, some of them were sitting and eating, some of them were sleeping, some of them were engaged in some other activity. The moment they heard that Krishna has come, they gave up everything and immediately started to the gate of the city to receive Krishna. So they put forth a lot of elephants, because elephants are considered very auspicious. Even today you will see, especially in Kerala, many temples, whenever there is a festival, they bring out the elephant. Even in Guruvayur also, famous temple of Lord Krishna, every day there is something known as Shiveli. There the Utsav Murti of Krishna is brought out, and within the temple premises, the temple is quite huge. So there is an elephant waiting, then the Utsavar goes on to the elephant, and on the elephant, he takes one parikrama, pradakshina of the temple, and then he goes back inside, accompanied by a lot of vadya, lot of musical instruments and all that. So a lot of people come to watch that. It's a beautiful sight. Elephants are considered auspicious. The Dwarka Vasis kept elephants in the front, and they also got onto chariots, horses, some of them people walking. Not only the Yadavas, all the common folk also started coming. There were many learned scholars, Brahmanas. They all started reciting in Sanskrit various praises of Krishna from the Vedas. And there were a lot of other people, artists, there were dance people, and there were people who were good at singing. All these kind of people, there were poets. They all started reciting different prayers in glorification of Krishna, his different pastimes. And the dance artists also started performing different dance dramas along the way, remembering the pastimes of Krishna. So you can imagine, very festive mood. Everybody is in it's a great utsava going on, and everybody came like this to the gate of Dwaraka, and where Krishna had already come. And the moment Krishna saw all these relatives, he greeted each of them according to their position. Elders like Vasudeva, Ugrasena, he bowed down to them. With his sons, he embraced them, and he asked about their welfare. Friendly people, he exchanged greetings with them. And all these other Brahmanas and other residents of Dwarka who had come, he asked about their welfare. And like this, he reciprocated with everyone who had come there. Normally we see, whenever there is a politician coming, let us say the chief minister is coming or the prime minister is coming, lot of citizens come, they want to watch, they want to hear him talk and all that. So the prime minister, chief minister, whoever is, he will sit on top of a vehicle which is bulletproof vehicle. There will be a big escort. From the top of that, he will wave his hand and he will go. There is no opportunity for personal interaction. Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is not an ordinary leader, ordinary politician. So he, being one person, simultaneously with the thousands of Dwaraka Vasis had come, he greeted each of them individually. This is only possible for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So everybody came, this big Utsava, and they took Krishna and escorted him back inside Dwaraka. And when they all entered Dwaraka, all the women folk, they all climbed to the tops of the houses. And they were waiting, when will Krishna come and we will be able to see his lotus face. They were all eagerly waiting. And Dwarakavasis, although every day they were used to seeing the lotus face of Krishna, they were never satiated. Even for the women, it was like, it was a great opportunity to gaze upon the lotus face of Krishna as if they had never seen him before. And so like this, people from the rooftops, they started showering flowers upon Krishna. Somebody held an umbrella for Krishna to protect him from the sunlight. And like this, the whole group with lot of singing, dancing, and lot of Vedic chanting of the mantras, this whole procession forwarded slowly through the streets of Dwaraka. And finally, Krishna came to the palace of Vasudeva, his father. And as he entered the palace of Vasudeva, immediately all the 18 wives of Vasudeva came forward to receive Krishna. And then Krishna, Devaki of course was his own mother, and the others were his stepmothers. All of them were very loving to Krishna. They all embraced Krishna and they were shedding tears of love for him. After spending some time there, then finally Krishna entered his own 16,000 palaces. How did he enter? Not one after another. Simultaneously entered all the 16,000 palaces. And when he entered those 16,000 palaces, there were 16,000 queens waiting for Krishna to come. They were all the queens headed by Rukmini Devi. And because they were queens, they were women, those days because of the conservative society, they were all very shy and they did not come forward directly to receive Krishna. So when Krishna came, there are palace, a lot of servants are there, so many accompaniments are there. Therefore, the queens did not come out and personally greet him. When Krishna entered, they looked upon Krishna and they embraced Krishna within their hearts. And then they sent forward their children that go, your father has come, go and embrace him. And when the children went and embraced their father, Krishna, the queens felt great satisfaction. And so like this, the queens of Dwaraka also were constantly shedding tears in love for Krishna. You can imagine the scene everywhere, wherever you go, all the Dwaraka Vasis, there are constantly tears in their eyes upon looking upon Krishna, filled with love for Krishna. All of them are great devotees of Krishna. So when Krishna came into this palace, the 16,000 palaces of Krishna, all these queens, they were waiting to serve Krishna. And then after Krishna met all the sons, then he proceeded towards the personal chambers where the queens could spend personal time with Krishna in private. So, like this, Krishna spent his time in Dwaraka. And whenever we see how Krishna spent his time in Dwaraka, mostly he was surrounded by these beautiful, exquisitely beautiful queens. Although Krishna had sons, grown-up sons, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, these people were all grown up and they had their own wives and they had their own children. So Krishna was a grandfather. He was more than 90 years old when the Kurukshetra war happened. But even though Krishna was 90 years old, he still appeared Nava Yavvana, just like a fresh youth, 16 or 17 years old. Similarly, the queens of Dwaraka also, although they were also grandmothers, still they were also in the prime of their youth, exquisitely beautiful. So it is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, all this is described in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then it is said, Uddama bhava pishunamala valguhasa vridavaloka nihato madanopi yasam. These queens of Dwaraka, Uddama bhava, they were always very grave, not frivolous, not flirting with people here and there. They were very grave. And Pishuna Amala, and they were filled with great love for Krishna. Uddama bhava Pishuramala Valguhasa, and they would, whenever they would approach Krishna, they would have a gentle smile on their face. So imagine a beautiful girl approaches you with a gentle smile on her face. What will happen? Something and all will start happening inside. You will see even in movies and all that they show hero and heroine coming together, right? And the heroine gives a gentle smile and the hero is like, falling apart. So it's natural. Whenever a beautiful girl smiles, the heart of a man will start fluttering. It's impossible for a man to control himself in the presence of a beautiful girl, young girl smiling at him. And not only were the queens of Dwaraka smiling, Vrida Avalokan, shyly they were glancing at Krishna. Deadly combination. Gentle smile on the face and a shy glance at Krishna from the sides of their eyes. Enough to flatten anybody. Nihato Madanopi Yasam. This behavior of the queens of Krishna, and they were not ordinary women, they were Pramadottamaha, they were the most beautiful women in the whole creation. So their behavior towards Krishna was such that Nihato Madanopi, even Madana, even Cupid would become captivated by their beauty and by their looks and by their smiles. So the word Nihata Madanopi can be understood in two ways. Nihato Madano, that means even Madana, even Cupid could not resist the temptation. Another meaning is Nihato Amadanopi. Amadana refers to Lord Shiva, who is, we all know that famous pastime, when Kamadeva, when Cupid released the arrows, his famous arrows of flower at Lord Shiva was not agitated. He opened his eyes and burnt Kamadeva. So Lord Shiva is famous as not being affected even by Kamadeva. And therefore he is called Amadana, one who is not affected by even Madana or Cupid or Kamadeva. So Nihato Amadanopi, even Lord Shiva, if he were to come in the presence of the queens of Dwaraka, even he would lose his sobriety. Sammuhya Chapamajahat. And normally what happens is when a young boy and a girl, beautiful young boy and girl come together, what happens? Kamadeva starts releasing his arrows, isn't it? His famous arrows, flower arrows. But in the case of Krishna and the queens of Dwaraka, Madana, Cupid was experiencing that his own flowers, arrows of flowers, were instead of going and attacking Krishna's heart, were coming and attacking his own heart. Sammuhya, therefore he became frustrated. Chapamajahat, and gave up his bow. He said, my bow is not working, my arrows are not working, give it up. Sammuhya Chapamajahat Pramadottamasta, because of the beauty of the queens of Dwaraka. Even Cupid got defeated by their beauty. But in the midst of all this, when we look at this, it looks like Krishna is enjoying, like any other common man who enjoys in the company of a beautiful young girl. So what is the difference between a Bollywood hero who has a loving relationship with the heroine and Krishna and the queens of Dwaraka? What's the big difference? Yasyendriyam vimatitum kuhakairapina shekuhu. Although the queens of Dwaraka engaged every feminine weapon that they had at their disposal with their mild smiles and their gentle, shy looks and all kinds of feminine gestures they employed which were at their disposal to attract Krishna. But Yasyendriyam vimatitum na shekuhu. They could not even slightly agitate the senses of Krishna. He was completely above them. So how do we understand this? How can somebody be in the midst of, first of all, why would Krishna want to be in the midst of young women? That is what, the lusty conditioned souls in this material world, that's what they do. They are looking for association with a beautiful girl. That's how men are in this world, being driven by lust. They are constantly looking, where will I get the association of a beautiful young girl? This is the natural inclination of any young man in this world. So being conditioned by the three modes of material nature, an ordinary conditioned soul may behave like this. But why would Krishna do this? Why did Krishna have to stay in the midst of so many beautiful queens whom even
Kamadeva could not withstand their feminine gestures. So why would Krishna do this? Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has come down to establish Dharma. So instead of establishing Dharma, he is enjoying in the midst of thousands of queens. So the Bhagavatam says, tam ayam manute loko hyasangopi sanginam atma upamyena. So atma upamyena, comparing ourselves with Krishna, comparing a conditioned soul with Krishna, lokoyam abudaha. The less intelligent people, what they consider that Sanginam, Krishna has become attached to these beautiful women. That's how he is going to Dwaraka and spending time with all these beautiful queens. That's what an unintelligent person perceives. He thinks that Krishna has become like me, he has become attracted by lusty desires, and therefore he is in the association of the queens. But what is the fact? Asanginam, Krishna is never conditioned by the three modes of material nature to become attracted by beautiful girls like an ordinary conditioned soul. So the question comes, okay, we understand Krishna is Asanga, he is Asangi, he is never under the association of the three modes of material nature, he is not conditioned, but still, why should he go and stay like that in the midst of all the queens? And that the Bhagavatam says, Etad Ishanam Ishasya Prakritistopi tad gunaihi na yujyate sadatmasthair yatha buddhis tadashraya. So this very fact that Krishna Prakritistopi tad gunaihi na yujyate, Krishna is in the midst of all those captivating beauties, but he is not agitated even in the slightest. So this characteristic of Krishna, to remain in the midst of Prakriti, in the midst of this material world, in the midst of the three modes of material nature, within this material manifestation, Prakritistopi tad gunaihi na yujyate, but not to be influenced by them in the least. Etad Ishanam Isasya. This demonstrates the supremacy of the Supreme Lord. Ishasya Ishanam. Isha means Supreme Lord. Ishanam, his supremacy is demonstrated, is exhibited by the characteristic of being in the midst of the modes of material nature, but being unaffected, totally unaffected by them. And then the Bhagavatam says, Sadatmasthair yatha buddhis tad ashraya. This characteristic displayed by Krishna to remain in the midst of the material nature but not to be affected by the three modes of material nature is not displayed only by Krishna. Tad ashraya, those who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, even those devotees exhibit such characteristic. Great pure devotees, they will descend to this material world, but they will be totally unaffected by the three modes of material nature. Look at Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada was in the midst of this material world. In the midst of this material world, he was in the United States of America, where the sense gratification is the highest. And there, in America, Prabhupada was in the midst of all the drug addicts and the hippies. Can you imagine that? So it is said that if there are 10 bad people, let us say there are 10 drunkards, if you put one good guy who is not a drunkard, who doesn't have any bad habits, you put him in the association of those 10 drunkards, what will happen? He will also become a drunkard. So on the other hand, if you have 10 good people, they are all very pious people. In the midst of them, you put one guy who is a drunkard. What will happen? All 10 of them will become drunkards. This is the nature of influence of sense gratification in this material world. People cannot withstand the influence of the power of sense gratification. So even one person, if he is a sense gratifier, if he comes into the association of a group of pious people, even they will become attracted by sense gratification. But look at Prabhupada. He was all alone in the midst of everybody engaging in all kinds of intoxication, drugs, illicit sex. It was rampant. And Prabhupada was all alone in the midst of them. And what happened? All those hippies who came in touch with Prabhupada, they all became Vaishnavas. They all, instead of Prabhupada getting influence, they got influence and they gave up their drugs, illicit sex, everything, and they became shaved up devotees of Krishna. So this is Tadashraya. This is the influence of a pure devotee. This demonstrates the purity, the stature of the purity of the devotee. So what is possible for Prabhupada is not possible for us. If any of us were in Prabhupada's place, finished. So, but Prabhupada was such a personality because he is Tadashraya. He is completely surrendered to the lotus feet of Krishna. Even in the midst of the extreme sense gratification, Prabhupada is totally unaffected. So this is the characteristic of the pure devotees. Then what to speak of the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, Krishna. Krishna can, if its devotees cannot come under the influence of the three modes of material nature, where is the question of Krishna coming under the influence of lust and becoming attached to the queens of Dwaraka? So this fact, Krishna demonstrated by his personal behavior. And this fact has already been explained by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita also. So you can see how the Bhagavad Gita is full of philosophical instructions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And those very same principles are demonstrated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the personal life of Krishna, as well as the lives of great devotees whose histories have been recited in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So interestingly, in the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is entitled The Three Modes of Material Nature. In the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains largely the influence of the three modes of material nature and their interactions. And after Krishna explains the entire how the three modes of material nature are conditioning the living entities to remain entangled within this material world, towards the end of the 14th chapter, Arjuna put three questions to Krishna. One of the questions which he put to Krishna was, Katham chaitam streen gunan ativartate. His question, third question, that was the third question he put forth to Krishna. How does one transcend the modes of material nature? How can one overcome the influence of the three modes of material nature? Because the three modes of material nature are conducting this entire universe. All living entities are carrying out their different activities under the influence of the three modes of material nature. So how to overcome that influence? So this was a question put forth by Arjuna. And what was Krishna's response? Did Krishna tell, you have to study deeply the Upanishads and Vedanta Sutras, develop jnana, and with the jnana develop vairagya and become detached? Or did he say that engage in Ashtanga Yoga, practice different yoga asanas, and then dharana, samadhi, come to the point of samadhi, and then you will be able to overcome the three modes of material nature? Or did Krishna say, engage in karma yoga, perform your duties without attachment for the results, and by that you will be able to cross over the three modes of material nature? So what did Krishna tell? Krishna did not say any of these things. On the other hand, what did Krishna say? The famous verse where Krishna said, Mam cha yo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatitetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. So this is a very specific response given by Krishna to Arjuna to a very specific question put forth by Arjuna. How does one transcend, how does one cross over the three modes of material nature? So single pointed answer from Krishna. Mam choyo avyabhicharena yogena sevate. one who renders exclusive devotional service to Krishna. Avyabhicharena. Avyabhicharena means devotional service without any sort of contamination, any sort of mixture, any desire for fruitive activity, any desire for jnana, any desire for karma, any desire for Ashtanga yoga. No other desire should be mixed with devotional service. Devotional service performed only with the intention to please Krishna. That is called avyabhicharena yogena. Mamcha yo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate. Sagunan samatitaitan brahma bhujaya kalpate. Only such a person who executes unadulterated, unmotivated, exclusive devotional service to Krishna can overcome the three modes of material nature and be situated on the spiritual platform. Brahma bhujaya kalpate. So, this is Krishna's instruction to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, and this very same principle was demonstrated by Krishna personally in the Srimad Bhagavatam. By his personal example, Krishna is giving assurance to his devotees. Look at me, I am in the midst of all these beautiful queens, but I am not affected in the least bit. And therefore, if you take shelter of my lotus feet, you can also become completely unaffected by the three modes of material nature. This is the assurance Krishna is giving by his personal example. And so therefore, in today's verse, Maitreya Rishi is saying about Kardama Muni that Kardama Muni, Manaha Brahmani Yunjanaha, Kardama Muni fixed his mind upon Krishna and Eka Bhaktya Anubhavite, he performed exclusive devotional service. That means no dependence on karma, no dependence on Ashtanga yoga, no dependence on Bhakti yoga, no dependence on any other process. He did not depend upon any of these things. He performed exclusive devotional service to Krishna. Not even to other devatas, only unto Krishna. So actually we have to understand, Kardama Muni previously, he had meditated for 10,000 years using the process of Ashtanga yoga mixed with Bhakti yoga. So he had performed Mishra Bhakti, mixed devotional service he had performed. And he had darshan of Vishnu already. So he had already come to the point of having darshan of Lord Vishnu, having personally seeing eye to eye Lord Vishnu. Can you imagine that? So what is there left for him to do? Still, at that point of time, he was not executing exclusive devotional service. He had executed only mixed devotional service. And therefore, his progress in spiritual life was still not complete. And hence, after Kapila Dev incarnated as his son, Kardama Muni gave up his home, took sannyas, went to the forest, and again practiced exclusive devotional service to Krishna. Eka Bhaktya Anubhavite. He performed exclusive devotional service to Krishna, and by that he was able to Mano Brahmani Yunjanaha. His mind became constantly fixed upon the lotus feet of Krishna. That means, unless we perform exclusive devotional service to Krishna, our mind cannot become fixed upon the lotus feet of Krishna. If we have any sort of desire for any enjoyment within this material world, then what will happen is our mind cannot become fixed upon the lotus feet of Krishna. So therefore, the standard of devotional service, which is demanded by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, Mam chayo avyabhecharena bhakti yogena sevate. So that is the standard of devotional service Krishna is demanding. Krishna is not looking for karma yoga. Krishna is not looking for dhyana yoga. Krishna is not looking for jnana yoga. What is Krishna looking for? Krishna is not even looking for Mishra Bhakti. Krishna is looking for avyabhecharena bhakti yogena. Eka Bhakti Krishna is looking for. That is Krishna's demand in the Bhagavad Gita. That is why Krishna says that Sarva Dharman Parityajya, give up everything else. Mam Ekam Sharanam Braja, surrender only unto me. That is the demand put forth by Krishna. That is the standard of devotional service Krishna is expecting from all of us. And that is the standard that Srila Prabhupada also set. Prabhupada never said, chant Hare Krishna or engage in devotional service and your material problems will be solved. Your disease will be cured. You will get good marks in college. You will get a good job. All your problems at home will be solved. Prabhupada never said. On the other hand, Prabhupada said, never use the holy name for getting any of these benefits. You have to chant Hare Krishna only for pleasing Krishna. You see, this is the standard Prabhupada also set. So, we have to understand that if our goal in life is to go back to Godhead, if our goal in life is to develop Krishna Prema, if our goal in life is to go back to Goloka Vrindavan, then it is possible only when we surrender ourselves totally and exclusively only unto Krishna. Otherwise, it is not possible. And this is the example being set by even Kardama Muni. And Kardama Muni is setting up such a beautiful example that in his own personal life, even after performing Mishra Bhakti, he was not satisfied. And for further perfection, he undertook Eka Bhakti, the process of unalloyed devotional service to Krishna. So, therefore, from the instructions of the life of the great devotees whose histories are described in the Bhagavatam, as well as the instructions of Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, and the example set forth by Srila Prabhupada, the standard set forth by Srila Prabhupada, we should all aspire to execute Eka Bhakti or Ananya Bhakti or Avyabhicharena Bhakti Yoga. So, without any contamination of any sort of desire, we have to execute devotional service to Krishna, and that is the only way to achieve Krishna Prema and go back to Godhead. So, I'll stop here. If anybody has any questions or comments, we can discuss. Yes, please. Mukunda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. In Bhagavad Gita, there are two words are used. One is Buddhi Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Are they used interchangeably or there is difference between?
In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, when he talks about Buddhi Yoga, Prabhupada mentions that in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Dadamitam Buddhi Yogam Yena Mam Upayantite. So those who render exclusive devotional service to Krishna, Krishna gives them the buddhi, the intelligence by which they can go back to him. So therefore, when Krishna uses the word Buddhi Yoga in Bhagavad Gita, we have to understand that it refers to exclusive devotional service. Because that buddhi, intelligence, has to come from Krishna only. And so therefore, we understand whenever Krishna uses the word Buddhi Yoga in Bhagavad Gita, that it refers to Bhakti Yoga only. Is that okay? Any other question? So we'll stop here. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.